while the light of Easter illumined the second day of the octave, Easter Monday, the beloved shepherd of the Church, Francis, passed from this world to the Father. The entire Christian community, the deed continues, especially the poor, gave praise to God for the gift of his service, rendered with courage and faithfulness to the gospel and to the mystical bride of Christ. The deed recalls that Francis was the 266th Pope, born Jorge Mario Bergoglio. He was elected Pope on March 13th, 2013. He was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina, on December 17th, 1936, to Piedmontese immigrants, Italian immigrants, to the children, of Italian immigrants. His father Mario was an accountant employed by the railways, and his mother, Regina Sivori, took care of the home and the education of their 5 children. After earning a diploma as a chemical technician, the man who would become Pope Francis chose the path of the priesthood, entering first the diocesan seminary, and then on March 11th, 1958, passed to the novitiate of the Society of Jesus. He became a Jesuit. He pursued humanistic studies in Chile and returned in 1963 to Argentina, where he graduated in philosophy at the St. Joseph College in San Miguel. He was a professor of literature and psychology at the colleges of the Immaculate Conception in Santa Fe and of the Savior in Buenos Aires.
We know that Pope Francis then was ordained to the priesthood on the 13th of December in 1969 by Archbishop Ramon José Castellano. And on the 22nd of April in 1973, he made his perpetual profession as a Jesuit. After serving as novice master at Villa Barilari in San Miguel, professor in the Faculty of Theology, consultant of the Argentine province of the Society of Jesus, and rector of the college, on the 31st of July 1973, he was appointed Provincial of the Jesuits of Argentina. After 1986, he spent several years in Germany completing his doctoral dissertation, and once back in Argentina, Cardinal Antonio Quaracino made him his close collaborator. It was on May 20th, 1992, when Pope John Paul II named him titular Bishop of AUCA and Auxiliary Bishop of Buenos Aires. He chose as his episcopal motto, Miserando adque eligendo, and inserted the Christogram IHS, the symbol of the Society of Jesus, the Jesuits, into his coat of arms.
Later, on June 3rd, 1997, he was promoted to the role of coadjutor Archbishop of Buenos Aires, and then upon Cardinal Quaracino's death, he succeeded him in February 1998 as the Archbishop and Primate of Argentina. He was also ordinary for the faithful of the Eastern Rites who resided in the country, and the Grand Chancellor of the Catholic University. Pope St. John Paul II created him a cardinal in the consistory of February 21st, 2001, assigning him the title of the titular church of St. Robert Bellarmino. That October, in 2001, he served as the General Rapporteur ad extra of the 10th Ordinary General Assembly of the Synod of Bishops. As we all know, the late Pope Francis was a simple and much beloved pastor in his archdiocese in Argentina, and he traveled everywhere, even by subway and bus. The official deed that is in the Pope's coffin recalls even that he lived in an apartment and prepared his own dinner, because he felt himself one of the people. After the cardinals assembled in conclave after Pope Benedict XVI's resignation. Jorge Mario Bergoglio was elected Pope on March 13th, 2013, and he took the name Francis, following the example of Saint Francis of Assisi. He wished to, above all, to care for the poorest in the world.
And we all remember his first appearance from the Lodge of the Blessings here at St. Peter's, and his first words, "Brothers and sisters, good evening." And now let us begin this journey, Bishop and people. He continued, this journey of the Church of Rome, which presides in charity over all the churches, a journey of fraternity, of love, of trust among us. And then bowing his head, he said, I ask you to pray for the Lord to bless me. The prayer of the people, asking the blessing for their bishop. And he continued, we know that every Angelus and most of all his audiences, he concluded by asking the people to pray for him. Do not forget, please remember me in your prayers. Do not forget to pray for me.
We can also recall his wit, because especially in the later years of his life, Pope Francis, when he would ask for prayers, would sometimes remind people to pray for him and not against him. He was famous for always throwing in a joke here and there. The Holy Father would, whenever he would visit, begin his general audiences in St. Peter's Square and sometimes in the Paul VI Hall. He would pause as he walked up the dais to the stage set up in the front of St. Peter's Square to greet the readers who would be present at the would be reading the summaries in various languages of his catechesis, and the Pope would frequently pause to greet them and exchange a word, sometimes reflecting on the questionable beard choices of some of the members, or asking about the recently departed parents of one colleague, or joking with another colleague, a pair of colleagues who had gotten married, and joking whether they would ever come back from their honeymoon, if they were going to come back to work, because he hadn't seen them reading at the liturgy, at the general audiences in a while. So we can recall some of these many humorous, serious, and the many moments of the life of Pope Francis, who died at the age of 88 on Easter Monday. As we see, there are still delegations arriving for this Requiem Mass, filing in front of the coffin, set up in front of the altar of the Confession in St. Peter's Basilica, preparing for this liturgy, which may start a few minutes late, as delegations are still arriving. As they arrive, we can recall some of the teaching, perhaps very little in this short amount of time that we have, but given the vastness of Pope Francis's magisterium. But we can recall with this deed that was placed in his coffin some of his the focuses of his papacy.
Yeah, and one of the things, of course, was his attentiveness to the least and to those discarded by society. Pope Francis, upon his election, he chose to live at the Domus Santa Marta because he could not do without contact with people. And from the first Holy Thursday, he wished to celebrate the Mass of the Lord's Supper outside the Vatican, visiting prisons, reception centers for the disabled, and those addicted to drugs. He urged priests always to be ready to administer the sacrament of mercy, to have the courage